Those rats again?
If rats did that, that's pretty impressive. Yeah, you're never gonna see that dog again. So this is Linda, who seems to have a stalker of some kind.
Some guard dog.
But then this other guy shows up.
Forgive me, my name is Thunston. John Thunston. I wrote to you about an article I'm researching.
So there's something unusual about her house, and he's doing research on superstitions, so that's why he came.
You're not from around here, are you, Linda?
Is that obvious? No, you're right. I'm from New York.
I can't tell if that's meant to be a joke or not.
I've been here about 6 weeks.
Then you've probably heard of Cret Marrowby.
So the guy who built the house, Marrowby, was convicted of witchcraft and hanged. Linda hears a noise, notices her dog is missing, and goes into the cellar.
I swear that sound came from down here.
It turns out that the floor had been covered up when she moved in, but she had it dug up because she was thinking of converting the cellar into a gallery for her paintings.
He said that's where the damp was coming from. Next day he called in sick and never came back.
Thunston finds a tile with a design painted on it.
Someone painted an ancient occult symbol on the original stone floor covering this circle. When your specialist ripped up the floor, he destroyed the pentacle.
Of course there was a pentacle involved. That's like Hollywood Occult 101.
My guess is it was put here to keep something away.
So Thunston decides to go to the courthouse to see if he can dig up any info on the guy who built the house and talk to the stalker to see if he knows anything. Aw, yeah, I don't think the dog's coming back. Meanwhile, there's something going on down there. The door even unlocks and opens itself like it did earlier. But nothing happens this time. Thunston comes back with the stalker guy whose name is Ritson.
Mr. Ritson has kindly offered to share his knowledge of Cret Marrowby with us.
See there? Just like I told you. Witchcraft.
Oh yeah, this guy's gonna be a big help.
I don't see what you're doing here anyhow. Stirring things up, rousing them. You don't belong here and you never will.
I think what Mr. Ritson is trying to tell you, Linda, is that he's concerned about you.
So he's a concerned troll. Sounds about right.
You see, he knows things about this house other folks don't. That's why he's been keeping a neighborly eye on you.
Anyway, he's willing to talk about what he knows about the house, which is a story that's been passed down through the generations of his family.
Marrowby killed a preacher who was trying to run him out of town. The preacher died of a stab right through the heart.
It turns out that a wax dummy was found in Marrowby's cellar with a needle in its chest. He ended up confessing, but was executed after giving a warning.
You warned not to use black magic. Let familiar be, he said. Rouse him not, he said.
Title drop.
Then off he swung.
And his body was buried in the cellar with a stake through the heart, because that's how you make sure a witch stays dead.
And don't keep his spirit from roaming.
I guess the creature in the cellar didn't care for that story. I'm kind of amused that they blocked the door with a chair. Like, there, that'll keep him out. Notice that Linda has a gun. That's gonna come in handy later on. Anyway, Thunston has been in the cellar.
That circle, I think it must be some kind of a doorway to wherever that thing lives. It's gone now, but it'll be back when it gets hungry again.
This is so insane. What am I gonna do?
It turns out that he's a monster hunter of sorts and is going to go after it, with a particular sword.
This is no ordinary sword. This blade is pure silver.
What's this writing mean?
Sic perient inamici tui, Domine. So perish all thine enemies, O Lord.
He does suggest to Linda that she leave for her own safety, but she refuses.
This is my house now, not Cret Marrowby's.
She asks about the creature in the cellar.
Not if they put a stake through his heart to keep him quiet, no. Not Marrowby. His familiar, an attendant spirit.
So, stake through the heart makes witches stay dead and silver kills their familiars? Sure, whatever you say.
Like a witch's cat?
Familiars come in all shapes and sizes.
By the way, once I noticed that this guy kind of sounds like Zap Brannigan from Futurama, I couldn't unhear it. My familiar comes in all shapes and sizes. Ugh.
I thought that thing looked a little physical for a spirit.
Also, it turns out that the pentacle was keeping the creature locked up, and when she had the floor dug up, it broke the spell. Well, that's a little different. Usually they're used for summoning demons in Hollywood occult. Anyway, they've been killing time until midnight strikes, and now it's finally time for him to go down there and fight that thing. It hides from him for a while, but then it catches him off guard, making him drop his sword. This is about the best shot we get to see of this creature in this whole episode. Either way, here comes Linda with her gun, and she wears it down, or at least distracts it long enough for Thunston to get the sword back.
Here, take me!
And... well, okay. Go Thunston. And go Linda. I didn't think she was going to be of any help.
I think you'll find you can open your gallery now.
You were right. It's no ordinary sword.
It turns out that this sword was made by someone who was also named Thunston centuries ago.
He was a silversmith before he was a saint.
So this is either somehow the same guy or he's descended from him.
So perish all thine enemies, O Lord.
And so ends Rouse Him Not. This was another decent episode. It's another one that's kind of a slow burn, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but at the very least it doesn't give me much to talk about. I do kind of wish that Thunston was the focus instead of Linda. That little revelation at the end was neat, but I feel like it's a bit of a wasted opportunity. Other than that, it's a fairly simple and straightforward story. Linda was played by Lorraine Newman, who was one of the very first wave of Saturday Night Live cast members. I think she and Garrett Morris are the only two of them who didn't go on to be superstars after that, for some reason. It might be because she didn't play too many recurring characters other than Connie Conehead. She was also in Problem Child too. Thunston was played by Alex Cord, who was a regular on Airwolf before this. I guess that's about all I have to say about this one, so here's another episode. So in the basement of an office building, we open on this construction worker busting through a wall and... it doesn't end well for him. Well, that was a short episode. Anyway, the foreman, Sherry, leads a couple more guys down there, thinking that the first guy was goofing off, but they find him dead, with his face burned.
But what did it? What could have burned his face like that?
She wants to call the police, but Phil here wants to investigate what's on the other side of that hole.
Don't worry about me, lady. I can handle myself.
Hey, not that one. That's mine.
What the hell difference does it make?
I love how their friend just died and they're fighting over a pick.
Okay, fine. Christ, Jerry's dead. We were arguing over picks.
Yeah, like that. Anyway, Phil finds a gold coin in the dead guy's hand.
I ain't seen a lot of gold in my life, but I know what it looks like.
Well, who could argue with that? So Phil is determined to see if there's more gold in there, but his co-worker Joe doesn't think they should go in, and Sherry definitely thinks it's a bad idea.
You're crazy to crawl through that hole till we know for sure what's in there.
I already know for sure one thing that's already in there, old man. Gold. And that's the only reason I need to check it out.
Good lord, I know people can be greedy, but does greed always have to make characters suicidally stupid? Phil goes in alone, looks like a Soul Reaver level in there, and eventually finds an actual treasure chest.
Oh, man. I'm rich. I'm rich. I'm stupid. I'm stupid.
Meanwhile, the other two are a lot smarter and stayed behind, and Joe starts talking about the tales that his grandmother used to tell him.
Stories used to tell me about elves and fairies. And trolls.
Trolls. That's a myth. A fairy tale.
Oh no, trolls are very real. Hell, we had the concerned variety in the last episode. Back to Phil the dumbass. Naturally, he's loading up a bucket. I mean, it's not like a guy died down there or anything. Should be fine.
Ah, come on, dirtbag. Whoever you are.
Yeah. So the other two hear him screaming, so Joe goes to help the poor dumbass. And we find out that the troll doesn't like light. Unless it's coming from a monitor. Just guessing. That was silly. Anyway, Joe got left behind for his trouble. He makes it back to the opening, but not before getting his foot burned. Apparently this troll can burn things by touching them. Of course, Phil the dumbass wants to go back for the rest of the gold.
You're nuts. You can't get that with that troll guard in it.
Troll? You trying to tell me that thing's a troll in there?
What did you think it was, a homeless person with mutant powers?
According to legend, a troll's blood is boiling hot.
And its skin, too, I assume. I doubt it bleeds all over people. That wouldn't be a useful ability for very long.
A troll hoards treasure underground. It uses it to lure people into its lair.
It's okay, what if it is a troll? It's gotta be something trolls are afraid of.
According to Joe, trolls can be hurt by sunlight and iron. Joe has an older pick, so his is made of iron, but Phil's isn't. Now Phil starts trying to talk the other two into going back in.
You wanna die with a pick in your hand? Or a champagne glass? You wanna be the boss's errand girl your whole life? Having to come down here and tell us to work harder because he doesn't want to get his shoes dirty? Well, what is the matter with the two of you? It's as easy as winning the lottery.
Just like winning the lottery, if losing the lottery meant that you got burned to death. So they set up some floodlights. See, at least they know how to fight it now, at least in theory. They aren't just going in blind like he did earlier. So they go in, Phil fills up the bucket. Of course the troll is watching but unable to get too close to them. Then they head back for the opening in the wall. And they make it back.
What'd I tell you? We're rich.
I can't believe it. We pulled it off.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad we got out of there alive. Come on, hurry up. Let's get this up the stairs.
But the entrance caves in. Oops. Though apparently the troll made it happen, or that's what the other two think at least.
You still don't get it, do you? This is his turf. He can do anything he wants down here.
They temporarily block the hole and get to digging, and none of them is happy about it.
Phil, you got us into this. Now get us out of it.
It's our fault in a way. This mess we're in. We brought it on ourselves. Put the gold down here to lure us into the cavern. But we had a choice. We could have said no.
Joe gets it. Unfortunately, he also got the idiot ball because he was leaning against the wrong wall. Now it's broken in all the way, but Phil has the old pick and is ready to use it. Which he does, but gets blood sprayed all over him. Guess you should have thought of that. He probably inhaled some of it too. That's a pretty horrific death for poor stupid Phil. On the upside, the troll also appears to be dead. Sherry tries to climb up the rubble and starts knocking some of it loose. But of course the troll wasn't dead. She eventually manages to knock a rock loose, which floods the room with sunlight, finally killing the troll.
Do we get overtime for this?
And so ends Fool's Gold. Boy, the title is really apt. I get that this is meant to be an Aesop about greed, but good God was Phil ever stupid. Maybe if he had a better motivation than just flat out greed, like he needed the money for some family member's operation or something. Yeah, that's kind of cliche and maybe not the best idea, but something like that would at least make him somewhat sympathetic, which I think might have helped. He could still be acting recklessly, but at least we could understand his reasoning a little better. And again, I'll give credit to the other two for not being as stupid as he was, even if they did eventually go along with it. Again, at least they had a better idea of what they were up against and had some ideas about how to fight it. The troll itself had a pretty neat design. Reminds me a little of Fluffy from the Crate segment of Creepshow, and considering how many people from Creepshow and Creepshow 2 have been involved in the show so far, that might not be a coincidence. Phil was played by Jeff Conaway, probably best known as Bobby Wheeler in Taxi, though he was in Grease before that. He was also on The Bold and the Beautiful and Babylon 5. Sherry was played by Mary Cataray, who... Remember that spin-off of Three's Company called Three's a Crowd, where Jack moved in with his girlfriend and her dad was their landlord? She played the girlfriend. The troll was played by Debbie Lee Carrington, who is a little person who has played a lot of interesting roles like this. She was an Ewok in Return of the Jedi, one of the additional ducks in Howard the Duck. I hope it was this one. Valerie Vomit in the Garbage Pail Kids movie. Hey, I didn't say they were good movies. She was also one of the Emperor Penguins in Batman Returns, and she was also in that episode of Seinfeld called The Stand-In. It was written by Michael Reeves, who also wrote Sleeping Dragon, along with all those cartoon shows I mentioned. I still can't get over that. This episode was at least better than Sleeping Dragon. He's actually got 2 more episodes coming at some point, so we'll see if he improves more before the end of his stint on Monsters. One thing these 2 episodes have in common is that they're both directed by people who are mostly makeup effects artists. That's kind of interesting. So there you go, 2 more episodes that are basically mediocre. The show is finally about to get better though. Next up, finally, is Glim Glim. Hopefully I haven't overhyped it. Also, it's a Christmas episode. See you then.
Well, that tastes a lot better. Tastes a lot worse, too.